Hey everyone, welcome back to the Health Bridge. Dr. Pedram Shojai here with Dr. Sara Gottfried.
Yo everybody, happy to be here.
Hey Sara, we are doing this show because we've heard a lot from people about being tired. And it's so universal, right? It's like people go into the doctor complaining about fatigue more often than anything else, it seems, in our universe now. And it seems like whatever else you go in with, fatigue is obviously thrown in there. It's just like assume that everyone's tired, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. And so we wanted to dedicate a whole show to this, being two super energetic people who figured out how to hack that and really kind of share with you guys some pearls of wisdom from us and all the friends that we have in our circles on how to overcome fatigue with just good, clean, healthy lifestyle practices and not, robbing Peter to pay Paul and drinking coffee to get through the day all day.
Okay, I'm going to put you on a limit with how often you say that you're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, Pedram.
Peter must be so upset. He's being robbed like every other week.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk through some fatigue busters, and I'm excited about this. It's not like we're gonna have this boring list of all the blood tests you need to have when you're tired. We're actually gonna make this come alive. So Pedram, what do you got first?
Look, if you can't get your heart rate up, you are not going to get your lifeline going. It's all about moving. And people are all complaining about fatigue and why am I so lethargic and why am I dragging? And they're spending 8 hours a day parked in an office chair, to and from work, driving in a car, getting home, sitting on some dumb sofa and watching some dumb TV and going to bed. With maybe, 20 minutes of walking here and there, or maybe even stopping at the gym for half an hour, right? It is so much stagnation to movement in that ratio that no wonder the body's fallen asleep and the brain follows suit. So for me, number one is always movement. Okay,
that's good. Now, let me tell you what happened last night. I'm just going to go full transparency here. So I went for a walk with my darling husband after we had our yummy dinner, and then we're a little addicted to 24, like the latest season of 24. So we watched Jack Bauer for an hour, which got us all hyped up and adrenalized. And, then we didn't fall asleep until 11. So do I get partial credit for your point about movement?
For the walk, yeah. But life isn't a spectator sport, and I think that that's kind of a big thing. I mean, just recently, I just read this blog post by Mike Adams, which was pretty controversial, and I kind of shared it on my Facebook and lit up a couple people because he was saying that this kid who just went crazy in Isla Vista and killed all these people, was a product of our society, and people like if you watch Dexter. I mean, that's kind of what that guy does. It's like vengeance killing and all this kind of crap that works its way into the memes of how we think and how we function. So I just, I'm not smart enough to watch TV. If I sit down with my guard down and all of a sudden TV just kind of hits me, all of a sudden this stuff kind of embeds in the subtle field of my subconscious, and all of a sudden my dreams are going crazy, or, I have these weird thoughts 2 days later going, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, I've been thinking about drones a little too much in my dreams. So I'm gonna go super simple with the next one, which is the lesson that I need to remind myself of on a daily basis, and that is we got to fix the sleep debt. So so many of us don't get enough sleep. I can tell you, I wear a tracker so that I can measure how much sleep I get every night, how much deep sleep, how much light sleep, how much total sleep. And I know that I do best when I'm getting about 8 hours, sometimes 8.5, 9 hours to make up for sleep debt. Now, we've talked about this before, how about 6% of the population has the genetic predisposition where they can function well on 6 hours of sleep. But Pedram, what I found in my own medical practice is that about 50% of people think they have that gene, not 6%. So let's just, let's get honest about how much sleep you need.
I'd like to circle that back in with what we were just talking about, like Jack Bauer and 24 and adrenaline and the archetypes that we aspire to are sociopathic lunatics that are flying off, jumping out of helicopters and machine gunning multiple enemies and never taking a shot. And it's one of these things that it's just fantasy. It's not reality. And the more you watch fantasy, the more you start to believe that that's actually true. And so, there's the Superhuman Project and Chasing Superman and all kinds of really interesting research that's coming out. And the fact that Red Bull sponsors athletes just blows my mind to begin with. But that stuff is interesting, but it's not relevant for everyday people that have kids and jobs and like a reality that obviously works differently than the dude that's ziplining out of a helicopter and shooting every terrorist with, they have a clip of 10 bullets and they just shot 20 guys. I mean, that's Hollywood, and it's not real.
Wait a minute. Okay, so Jack Bauer last night had a moment of vulnerability with Audrey. I just want to defend him slightly here, but your point is good. I mean, you just tagged me, and the idea here is that sleep is a spiritual practice. We need it. We need it for growth and repair. And so if you are feeding yourself before you go to sleep, the latest sociopathic episode of Jack Bauer, it's not serving you. Like, it's not serving the unconscious work that needs to happen in your sleep and the growth and repair of your cells. So I'm going to capitulate on this one.
Oh my God, look at that. Arm twisting on the radio.
It's rare. Okay, what do you got next?
So I'm going to leak a little something. Celeste is going to kill me, book agent, because I'm going to leak a little something that's coming in my upcoming book, the title of which I won't even mention. But it has to do with doing versus being. And our culture, our psyche, the Western mind is so expansive. And it's so powerful in its ability to just kind of create new and really just perpetually create and grow, that we've become addicted to action, right? And action is karma, and action has consequences, right? And in the East, there's this huge culture that's grounded and rooted in the analysis of just our being, right? And understanding who we are intrinsically instead of who we're trying to be and what we're doing to be it. And so I think that there's a healthy dose of that needs to kind of wash up on the beach of our crazy reality here. Because if you're constantly thinking that you need to do something when you sit down, if you sit in a doctor's waiting room and immediately pick up your phone and just get to work and not even like be able to sit there and take a breath and enjoy not doing something for a second, then you are sick with this. And it's something that, I'm going to really delve into in the book, but that's a ways away. So it's just something that I want to kind of set up now as something I need the audience to think about, because, guys, that is not normal. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors used to just chill out under a shady tree and listen to the wind and just be. And that's a part of our fabric. It's a part of who we are. And we've taken such a dramatic departure from that our physiology can't keep up. It makes us crazy, and it taps our energy. Yeah,
you're so right. And I just took a deep breath when you said listen to the wind. That just really hit me square right between the eyes. And do less, be more. Be more. Hey, you have a magazine by that title.
I do, and we're actually doing some wonderful stuff with it right now. But yeah, be more, and be more often. It's something that we've forgotten, and and we just did a great show with Alex Jameson talking about desire and basically how that gets leveraged in our culture. And all TV advertising, all advertising is based on leveraging our desires to get us to get up and act and do more and have a call to action and buy this stuff and all that. And so it's almost as if there's mosquitoes constantly buzzing around our ears trying to drive us to do, so we can't relax into being. So you got to shut out the world.
That's good. I like the mosquito analogy. That's totally working for me. You're rocking some really good analogies here. So next, I want to talk about the threat bucket, which in some ways has some overlap with these points that you've made already. I was talking to a guy that we just met recently when we were back east, Dr. Eric Hobbs, and he was talking about the threat bucket, and it just it really hit me to think about it in this way, that we have this ancient system that was developed to deal with threat. It's our stress response system. It's the fight or flight response that we have. And yet so many of us in our modern lives run around with this threat bucket, and like we're carrying the bucket and it's just filled to the brim. It's overflowing. And that leads to this erosion in your performance. It leads to an erosion in your energy. It's sucking you dry and you don't even know it. So we want to think about that threat bucket. How do we empty out the threat bucket? What are some of the practices that really help you manage that threat bucket so that you're not constantly overflowing?
I love this because it really relates back to our primal origins. Like threat bucket, you have an antelope sitting there chilling out, eating grass. Oh my God, it's a lion. Run for your life. Wow, I made it. That was really cool. And they have this moment where they just tremble and they shake and then their adrenals just release, right? And then they go back to eating grass. They don't sit there and go, oh wow, what did I do wrong? I'm such an idiot. I should have been looking around that corner. They don't have that kind of cerebral activity to get down on themselves or start, creating storylines around it. Problem solved. I'm still alive. Awesome. Right? And so there's a couple ways to do this, and I'd love to tease this out a little bit just because we're getting a lot of questions about like literal how-tos, like, hey, how do you meditate? So we're going to put some resources up on healthbridgeshow.com for that, and we're going to do a whole show on meditation and literally walk you guys through it. So we're going to maybe have you meditate with us on the show. Go to healthbridgeshow.com, give us some reviews if that makes sense to you guys. But I'd like to go over a couple techniques that I like, if you'll indulge me the time there, because this is something I deal with a lot. I've dealt with lots of GIs with PTSD. I've taught Qigong to people like Navy SEAL type guys and all that. These guys really, these are people getting bullets flying at them, real stress, right? Real stuff.
And I work with stay-at-home moms, and they have real stress.
Big time. Boy, do I know. Oh my goodness.
And working moms.
Yeah.
Hey, we're like Navy SEALs, but just slightly different parameters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The bullets are different, but they're still the same. Yeah. So one of them is you line up in your basic kind of Wu Chi posture, which is feet shoulder width apart. And if you're in a place where you can do this, just kind of play along right now. And you kind of let your arms hang to the sides, and then you just let a subtle vibration kind of take over from the base of your being, and just let it kind of start moving through you. And the goal here is to get out of your own way, right? So you'll be like, oh, what am I doing? Do I look stupid? And if you're worried about that, just go into some other room and don't let people watch you. But the goal is the impedance or the blockage of our energy is really what makes us feel ill and what gets us to get out of flow. So if you let the energy just move through you and literally just bouncing and shaking and just shake out your body for about 5 minutes and breathing, and some people end up breathing really hard, and then just relax, put your hands on your navel and breathe for a second, see how you feel. It's very similar to that primal discharge that the antelope gets when he survives, but we never get that, right? So we got to go get it by having a bender out with the friends and having way too many beers and saying things that we shouldn't say, or just getting all worked up in ways that aren't necessarily healthy because we don't have these things built in physiologically and psychologically into our daily rhythms. So that's something I highly recommend for that. And I've been, like I said, I've been teaching it to, guys that have come back from Afghanistan, and it works tremendously well.
This is great. I think this is connected to another major theme that I want to bring in, which is about the adrenals. And I think a lot of folks, when they hear of adrenal fatigue, or maybe their mainstream doctor dismisses that they have adrenal fatigue as a cause of the lack of energy that they have, they maybe start taking a supplement. They go to Whole Foods, or they go to their local health food store and they pick up an adrenal supplement, and they think, okay, that's how I'm going to deal with my adrenal fatigue. But the truth is, you need a broader picture. It's not linear. It's not like take adrenal support and that's going to fix your adrenal fatigue. You need some of these practices that you're describing, to discharge, as you just described with this practice, with the kind of that gentle shake, which I think is really awesome. I also like to just sit and get quiet and just hear my voice. I need to get quiet and I need to connect to that inner divinity. And there are many ways to do it. I just feel like with so much going around as a working mom, I need to be quiet. Sometimes I like to sit in front of my fireplace with the fire lit and just look at the fire and just try to tune to, okay, higher power, what will you have me do? What will you have me say? Some of those practices we have in our morning ritual podcast. I also just wanted to call out my husband because I always love to call him out. He went fishing last week. He was gone for like 6 days. I didn't know when he was going to come back because that's what he does when he has to go connect to his inner divinity. He hears it. He hears that inner voice when he's standing in a river, like up to his chest, with like the current moving, and he's catching big trout, and there's no one else around, and there's slick boulders everywhere, and it's sunny. Like that's how he hears his inner voice. There's so many ways to do it.
I love that. That's why I like Dave so much. Yeah, that's, nature is one of the quickest ways in. And it's just tried and true. You connect with nature, you connect with your own inner nature. And people have been doing it, for way longer than we've been talking, right? Go back and read some Whitman. It's built into the fabric of who we are, and connecting back to who we are is really, really powerful. One of the things that I'd like to add here, and it's a little esoteric, but that's me, is when I walk into a room, my training is always to assess threat. I will immediately look at anything that's threatening. I will look at where I need to be. I look at where the exits are, and I look at where I would need to sit to be safe. And that just happens without me even having a conscious thought. It's just my training, right? I've been a warrior. And there's something very powerful about this, and I'm going to explain that the literal translation of Kung Fu is hard work. And as you get better at Kung Fu, you get better at life. And so as you challenge yourself to become better at everything that you're working at, the little threats in life are no longer threats, right? You recalibrate that threat bucket. And so I think it's very important sometimes to go, we did, for the making of this next movie, we did all this wilderness survival stuff in Africa and learning how to live off the land. You get to a point where you're like, okay, food, water, shelter, fire. That's it. Everything else beyond those needs is a want, right? And it really kind of reshuffles your threat bucket, because what actually is supposed to trigger that is life or death. Right? But we're getting triggered by stupid things all day, and that's why we're all exhausted, right? And going back to the kind of the theme of where we started here is, why are people tired? Is because people are these deer. This is how our ancestors, people used to say, oh, we were able to run down antelope, and that's why we were able to survive. What actually happened was we were able to team up on the antelope and get 5 people that would stand in different areas and sprint after these animals at full speed, and when they would like run out of steam, the next guy would start until the antelope literally fell over and we'd carry him home. Right? It wasn't like we're going to chase this guy for 100 miles. But we are all that antelope, right? We are so winded from our lives that we don't have the recovery capacity, and I think that's why we're all so exhausted. And there's no pill that can fix that.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to do a quick little sexy librarian recap, because we've got some really good ones here. And I really like that recalibration of the threat bucket, Pedram. I want to honor you for that one, because I think that's huge. Like, it's this recovery phase. We leave out the recovery phase when it comes to living our lives. And you're right. I mean, often we've got the pedal to the metal, and it's over the stupidest things. So we've got to recalibrate. So here's our list of, the fatigue busters, the Pedram and Sara East meets West meets best fatigue busters. Number 1, Pedram said, get your heart rate up. It's all about moving. Life isn't a spectator sport. Number 2, I talked about sleep debt, how you want to track it, you want to upgrade it. Number 3, you said, do less, be more. I feel like there's probably a Yoda quote in there. And the Eastern analysis of being. Number 4, I talked about the threat bucket, and you were kind of doing the happy dance when I was talking about the threat bucket. I'm glad I made you smile there. And then next, adrenals. It's not as simple as popping a pill for adrenal support. We got to go deeper and broader and usually work with a practitioner so that you can really heal your adrenals. Next, Kung Fu. I just really like this idea of recalibrating the threat bucket and thinking about the basic needs. You know, I like that antelope analogy that you brought in, and how we need to really work on that recovery phase. Like, that's what really helped our ancestors advance, working on the recovery phase. So that's my sexy librarian moment with the fatigue busters.
I love this type of stuff because there's something very powerful in this, and I know you and I have talked about this offline. I think we should share it quickly. Is, you know, the supplement industry has really kind of modeled after the pharmaceutical industry, and they're like, oh, there's a pill for an ill, now there's an herb for an ill. I just had this, like, a friend kept texting me saying, hey, what can I take for thyroid? And I go, dude, it's a little more complicated than that. Just tell me what to take, right? And I'm sitting here shaking my head going, dude, you're gonna kill yourself. That's not how that works, right? And so, you know, I could tell I could see you wincing just when I say that, because there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So if you are suffering with long-term fatigue, it is important to find a qualified practitioner to maybe kind of tease out what's happening in the blood work and figure out specifically what pathways are off and what's messed up. And I know you have lots of opinions on this, having, you know, seen thousands of patients with this. And so I want to put that out as a precautionary thing, because a lot of people will just go to Whole Foods and ask the 18-year-old behind the counter what to take.
Yeah. This is crucial. So this is going to be our last point today, you know, that you want to do the fuller workup. We didn't talk about the list of labs that you want to check, you know, the CBC, the complete blood count, what's going on with your oxygen carrying capacity, what's happening with your blood sugar, what's happening with your iron storage and ferritin. Like, we didn't go there, but it's always in the background when we're having a conversation. You know, you and I practice integrative and functional medicine, this way of thinking about the systems of the body and what could be out of whack when you have fatigue. So you definitely want to do the work, not just with your adrenals, but with your thyroid and kind of the bigger picture of your body, the matrix of your body.
And just to be clear, guys, this isn't some sort of like doctor cop-out. Everything we talked about before this works, right? We'll get the labs on all these patients and figure out, you know, what's wrong and all this. But 95% of the time, this is the stuff I prescribe, right? Chill out, get good with stress, sleep more, all the things that we talked about. So lifestyle is really the key. Just be careful when you're just throwing supplements at the problem. And I think that's kind of the takeaway message is the way you live, the way you throttle will determine how that engine, you know, is going to run.
Yes, and stop watching the sociopaths on television.
You heard it from her.
Okay, no more. Starting tonight.
That's right. You want sweet, candlelit, soft moments with your lovely husband who's now chilled out from his fishing trip.
That's right, and you're going to be with us in a couple of days, so you can babysit us and make sure we don't watch 24.
Oh yeah, no, I'll be the TV cop. I'm good at that.
We'll be doing, what do you call that thing where you bounce?
I just call it shaking.
Shaking.
But there's a number of ways of doing it. We should do a couple videos on that when I see you next week.
Yeah, let's do it.
That'd be fun.
Okay.
Awesome. Guys, we are going to hopefully record some live stuff next week. We're going to be up in Northern California together, and we will upload that as soon as we can. Healthbridgeshow.com. We love to hear your comments. Go to our /resource guide or resources. Healthbridgeshow.com/resources, where we have the transcripts of all of our shows and a bunch of different stuff that we've put there for you guys. We are here to help.
That's right. Okay, Pedram, so fun to be with you. Thanks, everybody, for all of your comments and subscribing to our podcast. We love you. We want to hear more. We're here to serve.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.